Eddie White again here for Pacers.com, BankersLifeFieldhouse.com, segment 2 with Chris Lytle, the UFC legend out of Southport High School, Indiana University. Lights out, Lytle. You should only call you Chris. You want to call Lights Out?
Call me Chris. Call me Chris.
I'll call you anything you want me to call you. In our last segment, we previewed the big gala coming up here at the end of the month. But I want to talk to you about you, because I remember having you on the radio years and years ago. You were like one of the forefathers, and you busted your tail to get there. We all know the story, the firefighter, and someday you're going to be governor of the state of Indiana, I hope. I'll be your press secretary, by the way. Tell me about the early years. You were a wrestler. Wrestling. How did you make the move from being a guy who was grappling on the mats at Southport to being a stud in UFC?
Well, it was funny. Back when I started fighting was in 1998. A little bit different back then, a lot different. So I remember when I first started fighting in Japan, no weight classes, headbutts were legal. You could knee to the head on the ground. There was like no biting, no eye gouging. That was about it. So a little bit different. The sport's evolved. I've evolved. Basically, you just had to keep fighting and winning at a local level to be able to go to Japan. And then from there, I started really realizing my weaknesses. Those guys trained, 6 days a week, twice a day, full time. That's all they did. And I was doing it a couple days a week. So I really knew I had to do more.
Because you're putting out fires. You're saving lives.
I've been a fireman for about 12 and a half years now. So, I started doing professional boxing to make my boxing game better, and I got really good at boxing. I really enjoyed doing that in some ways more than MMA for a while. But then when I signed my contract with UFC and went on the reality show, it was all UFC. So then I became more known as a boxer because I like to knock people out. It was a lot funner than going the whole distance. That was hard. So.
How do you handle, because you're famous, people know you in Central Indiana, you see a lot of celebrity stuff. How do you handle, you go out one night, you're in a bar, and you get that drunken moron that comes up and starts doing the old, hey, you don't look as tall as you did on that TV show. Yeah, hey, let's step outside in the alley. Now, I ain't doing that. My mother raised a smart young person. I ain't doing that stuff. How do you handle that?
Well, luckily for me, once I started getting paid to fight, I decided that I don't want to do it for free. You know what I mean? If you want to fight me, put $1,000 down. We can do that. Most people in the bar don't have that kind of money. They're not real bright people, so that never happens. So I would like to make some extra money. So if you ever see anybody wants to get some aggression, I'll fight them for $1,000. That's my bare minimum. That's a good price, I think, because I'm usually charging a lot more than that. But to be honest with you, I've never had any problem. I have no problem walking away from a fight, and I think that's the true mark of a real professional fighter is they don't need to fight. And I'm not trying to prove to you or to anybody else how tough I am. I know how tough I am. I don't need to show that. So if someone's looking to fight and they're involved in the fight business, they're A, not very confident in themselves, or B, they're fighting for the wrong reason. I fought for money. I fought because it was a passion I had to compete with people. It had nothing to do with being the toughest guy around. And if you have to do that to yourself, you got some other psychological problems going on that we don't need to. I don't need to deal with that right there.
I just got an idea. I'm gonna put a beard and a mustache and like a wig on you, and $1,000. There's a couple people I'd like you to take care of. Now, I don't want you to, like the old days, but just kind of a little bada bing, bada boom in the alley. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but when you first said put a wig on me, I had a different thought. I'm thinking, I don't know where this direction's going. I don't like it though. I mean, not like a dress and a wig, right? This is a whole different show, and I don't want to talk. I'm not going down that road again.
All right, we won't talk about you putting on a dress and wearing a wig in Vegas a couple years ago. I'm joking.
I was young. I needed the money.
There you go. That's right. Hey, one more thing in this segment. Have you seriously at any time been hurt where you're like, oh, man, God, get me through this night. I'm never doing this again?
I would say the one time early in my career, I fought down in southern Indiana, and I don't know if you can see how my shoulder bone sticks out right here.
Yeah, there's something there that looks like a golf ball.
Yeah, I separated my shoulder probably, 30 seconds into the fight. And this was back, they didn't have different rounds. It was one 15-minute fight, so about 10 minutes in, I couldn't really move my arm anywhere. I was like, this is not very good. I'm starting to get beat up, and I eventually won the fight with the triangle. Tried to use my legs, and I beat the guy. And I remember I tried to raise my arms afterwards, and I couldn't. And it was just, it was a bad night. I won the fight, but I lost the war. I won the battle, lost the war. But it's kind of bothered me ever since. It's been about 12 years ago.
So when they raised your hand in victory like this, you couldn't do it?
I raised this one. I tried to raise this one. I was like, ooh, just leave that down.
So that golf ball thing is there forever?
Oh, yeah. That's not going away. It's funny. I remember afterwards, I got out of the ring. My friends were like, well, let's go to the hospital. And I was like, well, can't they just pop it back in? I was pretty ignorant. I thought it was just dislocated. It's separated, so it's been like that ever since.
Difference between him and me. I'm looking at that. I got to go to the hospital. I don't feel good.
Actually, it's a pretty funny story. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to. Me and my friends afterwards, we were down in southern Indiana. They're like, well, we need to get back to Indianapolis. I was like, I want to go to the hospital there. So they're like, all right, well, are you hurting? I was like, yeah, I'm hurting pretty bad. I can't put my clothes on. So they helped me get my clothes on, and my buddy stopped by the liquor store, got me a 6-pack of beer, and we drank that on the way back home. So I was like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. This isn't hurting that bad. That was my medicine for the way home.
You're kidding. That's like the old days of the NFL. All those guys did with, back in the day, they put dirt on it. Yeah. They'd have a shot and a beer, a little Jack Daniels, and boom, you're rolling.
What else could you do? I mean, I think I only made like $500 for the fight back then. This was back in probably the year 2000 or something. I don't know.
You're nuts. He's nuts.